Hey, what's going on, you guys? Welcome to another episode of the Trainer Talk. Today we're going to be talking about how to maintain your results or your progress that you've made all year long. A lot of people, especially when it comes to here in Sandusky at the gym, we see a ton of people put in a lot of hard work during the winter months, so from basically September all the way through about April, and then during the summertime they like to get outside and they basically just kind of quit training, or they at least slow down a lot and they lose some of that progress. So we want to talk to you guys about how to maintain your results all the way throughout the year. How it starts out is you want to look at your training not as black or white, like I'm training 5 days a week and I'm following a nutrition plan or I'm not. You want to think of it more like, how serious are you? What's your level of intensity on both throughout the year? So I like to think of it as like a dial from 1 to 10 rather than black or white or 0 to 100. So maybe during the winter months, your nutrition and your workouts, you're like an 8 or 9 out of 10. You got it dialed right up. You're working out maybe 5 or 6 times a week. You're eating very strictly, Monday through Friday. Maybe have a little bit of indulgence on the weekends, but for the most part, you're staying on track and getting good progress. And then summertime hits, maybe you just want to dial it back from an 8 or a 9 to like a 5 or a 6. Maybe you spend more time outside, you go for walks, maybe on the weekends you go camping or go, kayaking or something like that. Like you're doing some activities, but you're not completely getting rid of your workouts in the gym. Maybe instead of 5 or 6 days in the gym, you cut it back to 2 or 3, but you're still getting in here and doing that resistance training. One of my biggest pet peeves is people say that they're walking and doing yard work and that is enough to maintain and make progress. It is not the same as getting in here and doing resistance training workouts. You have to still train those muscles in order to keep the strength that you gained or continue making progress. And just a side note, you don't always have to be making progress all year long. We just talked about this a little bit before we started, is it's okay to just maintain during a certain section of the year. For a lot of us, it's going to be the summertime. We want to enjoy ourselves, so maybe we maintain during the summer and then we make a bunch of progress during the winter. And that's what I mean by this dial from 1 to 10. You want to dial it up and train real hard, make a bunch of progress, and then dial it back a little bit and maintain, but still enjoy yourself during the summer.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing of, like, we've talked about consistency a lot before, like making sure it's sustainable and consistent, or being consistent with all of our, lifestyle changes and whatever changes that we do to our diet or our training. We have to make sure that we can do it for the long term and be able to maintain whatever results we get from, whatever training or nutrition we do. So I think it's more of a weight maintenance problem or result maintenance problem that we have, in society when it comes to people. They diet and then they regain and diet and regain, and they get in this endless cycle and they only end up worse off down the road. And a lot of this comes from, like, statistically, 95% of the people who have lost weight gained it back after 2 years. It's somewhere around like 80-85% gain it back after the first year. So we have more of an issue of maintaining our results than we do of actually losing weight. Because we know a lot of people, go out and do the keto diet or some sort of intermittent fasting or something like that. They lose 30 pounds, but then they stop doing it and they gain it all back plus some. That's kind of called body fat overshooting. So what happens is you get to your body to a point with those protocols, and then when you go back to your old ways, your body wants to get back to where you were before it, and then some, because then it helps to prevent that from happening in the future. So it's a survival mechanism. What happens is you get more little fat cells. When we lose weight, lose fat, they get smaller. Then when we start to gain it back, we get more fat cells, and then when they get bigger, you have more fat cells and the same amount of fat that you had before in those cells. So if you have, more fat cells, they're about the same size as when you started, you're still gonna have more fat at the end. And you can't lose fat cells. You can lose fat, but not fat cells. So that's what makes it really hard. You go and you gain weight back and you're like, oh no, I have to diet again. So you lose 10 pounds and then you gain 15 back. And then you lose 10 pounds and gain 15 back. And you do that every winter, but then in the summertime you gain it all back. Over time, that's how those pounds accumulate. That's, you know, people come in and then they're hardcore during the winter time, and then over the summer, you know, they fall off track, they go off and do other things, then they come back and like, all right, I'm gonna hit it hard again, I'm gonna get down to my past weight or whatever. Then the cycle just keeps on continuing, leaving them in a worse place than when they started.
So when you lose weight drastically or in a short amount of time, and then when you fall right off track and gain it, that's when you gain more overall fat cells, right?
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily gain fat cells unless you gain a substantial amount of weight. Like if you just fall off your diet completely, start eating really poorly, or quit exercising, that's kind of the only way. So if you keep cycling through that, you can see how over the years it's going to be harder and harder and harder every single time to get back down to that weight. So we want to try to help you guys get down to your goal weight and then maintain that forever. We are huge on sustainability here. We're not about quick fixes. We don't want to give you the best diet plan in the world to lose 50 pounds. We want to give you the best diet plan to maintain, and you can actually enjoy it throughout the rest of your life.
Yeah, so I mean, most people will say that summer bodies are made in the winter and the spring, which is very, very true. Like you put that hard work in and to look good, whether it be like in a bikini or in a bathing suit on the beach. And then a lot of people during the summer, they just kind of let themselves go. And it's like, you did all that work to get a summer body. Now all you have to do is maintain that summer body. And honestly, the idea of maintenance or maintaining is a lot easier than progression in weightlifting and health and fitness in general. I'm pretty sure they say it takes like a seventh of what you're doing. Like if you're progressing, it takes like a seventh of that to maintain that muscle and what you're looking like. So it doesn't take nearly as much to maintain. So the summer is a great time to maybe not set any super unrealistic or high goals for yourself as far as like the weight room goes, but just making sure that you're getting here, you know, like Taylor said, 2 to 3 times a week is a great goal to shoot for, in my opinion. It's plenty. You can get a good workout in within 45 minutes to an hour, and it'd be perfect. I wanted to mention too, just the fact of like in the summer, especially around here, I think partly because it's finally nice out, we can get outside. You know, you're hanging around friends and family a lot more. You're probably going to be drinking more, probably eating not as healthy food when you're doing so. So I mean, you gotta be real with yourself sometimes too, and notice when you're going off the rails. Like I know I catch myself slipping sometimes, and I'm sure these guys do once in a while too. It's just like, not everybody's perfect. We don't expect any client to ever be perfect. You're gonna have those weekends or those days where you're gonna drink a little bit more, eat a little bit more than you usually would, but that doesn't mean that everything's ruined in one day. Don't just keep continuing that cycle. Break that cycle, get to the gym, eat your meals in the morning and lunch and dinner that you would usually eat that make you feel good. You know, just get back on track. I think a lot of times people get into that mindset where they do it once and then they get down on themselves, feel bad about it, and then they keep doing it over and over and over, and then you've lost all the progress you've made in the last, 6 months, a year.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, they really overestimate the damage that can be done in like one weekend, for example. Like let's say they go camping, or they have a big camping trip planned, and they eat really poorly, and they're like, oh, well, I fell so far off track, I might as well not even try it, to even, we have another camping trip in 2 weeks. Why should I even bother eating healthy or working out? Because I'm just going to lose my progress. You got to get out of that mindset. One weekend's not going to derail your progress at all. Enjoy yourself on the weekend if you're going camping. My suggestion would be like, you don't have to be 100% like take your own food and meal prep and stuff like that. Like I'm not going to do that personally, but I will take my own snacks, like things that I always have every day, like healthier snacks, maybe like a decent breakfast or something, and then I'll still enjoy whatever the family's cooking, for example. Like I'm still gonna enjoy myself, have a few drinks, but maybe I'll just have like a little bit of those snacks that I would normally have. So it's kind of like a balance. And then I want to get back on track when I get home. Is the big thing, is try not to fail over and over again. Like Austin said, like just get back on track and start up again, and you're going to be able to maintain that progress. So you almost don't want to go too crazy with it. Like I've had family members that would show up and they're like, I'm on a diet, and they wouldn't eat or drink or talk to anybody, and they didn't enjoy themselves. And then, it doesn't always last. A couple months later, you're talking to them and they're completely off of it. So we'd rather see you guys enjoy yourself, but then stay on track. And that's what I'm talking about with that dial, is just, you don't want to go to 0, but you don't have to be at 100.
Yeah, I think one of the main things, so they like ask questions to people that were able to maintain their fitness, and it's a lot of tracking. Not necessarily for restriction or, to really obsess over it, but just to like see where you're at and see if what you're doing is maintaining or if you're losing or gaining. One thing is tracking weight. I know we say to don't focus on the scale, so something like a body fat measurement would also work, or like tracking your waist and hip measurement, or taking photos, just like something to be able to compare to and just say, okay, am I staying within a range? Or like if you are continually gaining weight every week, or if that waist measurement's going up every week, then you have to make an adjustment to whatever habits you have. So like, if you are dialing back the scale a little bit, the dial, then like just knowing if you're dialing it back too much and then it's causing issues, you're not maintaining your results and you're actually starting to gain, then you can kind of adjust and get yourself back on track that way. Also adhering to some sort of schedule of workouts or eating. I think having a routine is really critical of like, okay, at this time I'm gonna go to the gym. Like maybe you don't make it as consistently as you did in the wintertime with, maybe a less busy schedule. And then, now in the summertime, you have spontaneous things that you want to go out and do. Maybe you don't hit the gym as much as you used to, but still having that time, that like commitment is still really important, and, trying to follow a schedule as much as you can. Another is some sort of food tracking, like whether that's like just eyeballing like hand portions or doing macros, if that's something that you find sustainable and something you want to do long term, just to get an idea of where you're at. Like some people will mindlessly eat all day and all of a sudden they're at 3,000 calories, or maybe they're not eating enough and they're only at, they forget to eat during the summer or something, they're out and they're doing stuff, and then by the end of the day they're only at 1,000 calories, which we also know isn't good. So just being mindful of where you're at, and then you're able to adjust from there.
Yeah, kind of what she's mentioning there is like just the idea of moderation. I think it's so important in the summer, and in life in general. It's just like you can have days where you eat more, you do things that aren't healthy for yourself or for your body, but at the end of the day, like you're still gonna do something that's healthy for your body eventually, or that day, or something that's gonna give you a win, something positive. I like your guys' analogy, like of a dial, being able to turn it, and I'm pretty sure you're the one that introduced me to like an 80-20 rule, which is a great rule, and you could push that back a little bit, like maybe a little more during the summer, like a 70-30 rule would be perfect. 70% of the time you're on track, you're still getting your workouts in, you're eating pretty good, but then 30% of the time you allow yourself to let down, to have some fun, because like Taylor said, like you don't want to be that person that restricts themselves so severely that when you go out you feel like you can't have a drink, or you feel like you shouldn't eat that because it's not healthy. It's like that's not what life's about. It's about having fun, especially when it's with family and friends. Like you should enjoy that time, but you should also be mindful and know when to rein it in. And some people don't have that ability. So I mean, if you are somebody that tends to go way off the rails all the time, maybe you need to reevaluate that and say, I'm only going to go out like one day a week or something like that. Like the 70-30 rule or an 80-20 rule, they're important in life, because I think far too often people get stuck in one mindset of, I'm a healthy person, like I'm only going to do healthy things for me, which honestly takes a little bit away some enjoyment in your life. So enjoy yourselves, but also be mindful, I guess is the right word.
Yeah, and a big part of that too is just like your environment. So like if you're hanging out with people that are constantly doing things that might be steering you away from your goals, like maybe they're going out every night during the summer and they don't eat good, and they're encouraging you to do things that maybe you don't want to do so much of, and then you need to just kind of evaluate like who you're spending your time with as well. obviously friends and family, like family it's harder to do. Just make sure that you're staying on track and you're reminding yourself of your goals. We talk a lot about like finding your why. So the easiest way to stay on track, like we're talking about all this stuff about adjusting your dial and being able to maintain your results, it all comes down to how important your health is to you and why you want to do it. So make sure you know why you're doing what you're doing, because or else you're not going to stick to any of this anyways, because you just don't have an important enough why or reason to do so. So for a lot of people, you know, if you're a parent, obviously you have kids that you need to be healthy for and be there for, play with. That should be your why. For me, I just want to live a long, healthy lifestyle. I want to be able to enjoy my life, you know, for as long as I can. I don't want to be crippled or have any kind of diseases when I'm, 50, 60, 70 years old. I want to live a disease-free life. So that's kind of like my goals. And I also want to be there for my future family. Even if I don't have kids of my own, I want to be there for my brothers and my nieces and nephews and things like that. And I'm sure these guys have the similar goals. So find your reason, your why, and that will also help you just maintain and stick to it. But I really like two things that Bethany had mentioned, like tracking your stats in some way, shape, or form. So for example, we just got an in-body scanner that we do scans with for all of our new clients and our current clients, and it measures your muscle mass, your body fat mass, all kinds of different stuff, your basal metabolic rate. So by just doing that, like every month, 2 months, 3 months, you'll stay on track better than if you didn't. Even if like the results are almost secondary. It's just the fact of doing that keeps you on track with everything else a little bit better. And I also use that same analogy like with my supplements. Like if I'm going to take supplements, I tend to stick on track better with my nutrition and with my workouts. Like I'm not going to mix up a pre-workout and then not work out. I'm going to be sitting there like, focused and energized, and my heart's going to be racing. I'm going to be, having a little tingly feeling from the beta-alanine, and I'm going to be crazy. So if I'm going to take that, I'm going to work out. So if you're going to commit to like tracking your food or weighing yourself, you're going to tend to stay on track a little bit better. So I like that. I also definitely agree with like creating a schedule. So scheduling out your workouts during the week could be one of the most important things that you can do to get your workouts in. The best way to do it, honestly, would be like if you had a personal trainer or if you were committed to a class and you're coming in and did like one of our group fitness classes, for example. It's at a specific time, certain days of the week, and you're paying that for it. You're gonna show up way more consistently than if you're just, say, working out at home. You could wake up and be like, I don't want to work out today. I'm gonna skip it. I'll do it later, and then you get busy, things come up, and then you miss it. You get to the end of the day and you forgot to work out. Or if you're just going to the gym, working out on your own, some days it's really easy just to skip it. You get done with work, it's nice out, you'd rather just go outside or have a bonfire or whatever it may be, and then you don't get your workout in. So maybe if you schedule it for a specific time during the summertime, a lot of people have really good luck with the morning before work. Just get it over with, rip off the Band-Aid, and then you're gonna have a much better, more productive day as well. But that'll definitely help with your accountability.
Yeah. One point with like the scheduling is tying it with something else. That's like one thing that I've found useful for myself whenever I'm trying to do a new habit or stick with something. And I know other people have had success with that, like before work, after work, maybe after you drop the kids off, or something like that. Something where you can attach it to something. So it's like a cue of like you get out of work, you drink your pre-workout, you come to the gym, and that gets kind of repetitive after a while, and you just kind of know like that's what I'm supposed to do at this time. And I mean, I'm gonna be honest, it's going to take a little bit of sacrifice in the summer to maintain your results.
Yes.
It's not gonna be a free-for-all to maintain your results. Like, you are gonna have to sacrifice some things. Like, instead of having a 12-pack of beer, maybe just have 3. But it's not like if you were actively pursuing a diet or like you wanted to lose fat, like Austin said, having some sort of like unrealistic goal for the summer of trying to lose, 20 pounds or something like that, it's gonna make not miserable, but you won't enjoy the parts of summer that you typically do enjoy. It's going to make it either you're going to be unable to stick with it, or it's just going to be like really miserable, and then you're going to end it and be like, I don't know if that was worth it. So just knowing that it's okay to just have the goal of maintaining, and knowing that it's going to take some sacrifice, but it won't be as restrictive as like being on a diet. So like you get some freedom, but you can't eat whatever you want and go lay on the beach and drink margaritas all day. It's a little bit of balance in between there. So just kind of knowing what that is for you. For me personally, now that like my CrossFit season's kind of like winding down a little bit, gonna change the dial like a little bit more like bodybuilding style. I've been kind of getting into that lately, just like a couple days a week, and then still doing CrossFit on my other days. So it's not hardcore coming in and like prepping for the open or anything like that, because like that's the time of year for that dedication. And I think it's actually like beneficial just to give your mind and your body something new. So switching up training, maybe that's what's going to get you more excited to come into the gym, is doing something unique, something fun, just to get your body moving but still get here. Like if you're starting to get bored of your workouts, or it's more of like you're just checking off the boxes, then switch it up, try something different. That can help create the novelty of it. Same thing with like nutrition. If you wanted, if you're stuck with eating the same things every day, maybe try a new recipe. Something just to kind of get you a little bit more excited, willing to stick with it, instead of just throwing in the towel and just being like, I'm done. Like people have that mode of like, they're just like, screw it, when they have one donut and they're like, I'm just gonna have a whole box now. Or like you have one slice of pizza and you're like, screw it, I'm gonna have the whole thing. Because like my diet's already ruined. We're gonna try and avoid that mentality, have your pizza, enjoy it, and then just say, okay, now moving on, going back on track.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned too, like making or changing up the nutrition a little bit and making workouts a little bit different and more fun. I think that's a great tip. And summer is the perfect time to try and find some new foods. I was training with a client last night and we were talking about like different fruits and vegetables I want to try, because the season for those are coming up around the corner. So really excited to hit up some farmers markets and try some different foods and get fresh and locally grown foods. I think that's super cool. Something that you can challenge yourself with in the summer. I'm gonna make a new recipe or try something new anyway. And then the same with your workouts. It's a great time to go for a bike ride or go for a run. You could go and take a couple dumbbells outside and get a workout in outside. We don't get to do that all year round, so it's a great time to take advantage of that. You could also like take the time to maybe do a sport that you haven't done in a while. You can get outside and play basketball or soccer or something along those lines. There's a ton of different things that we can do recreationally in the summer that we don't really get the chance to do in the winter here around here. So take advantage of the the 4 or 5 nice months that we have out of the year and kind of push yourself in different ways.
Yeah, for sure. All of those would definitely help you guys. I also want to just say, be like kind of straightforward. She mentioned earlier like about the drinking and the eating, like when you just completely ruin your diet, or you think you did, so you just kind of throw in the towel. When she mentioned like, instead of drinking a 12-pack, maybe just have a couple. And I totally get, people are probably thinking like, oh, I can't just have a couple of drinks. Maybe you have a couple every single night of the week. Like that's what you do. It's a habit that you have, and you're not going to give it up. Basically, what you're saying is you don't value your health or your goals as much as having those drinks. So that all comes back down to like why you actually want to be healthy. So if you're somebody that's sitting here watching this, you're like, I really want to be 150 pounds and in great shape, and right now I'm 180 and I just can't lose the weight, but I'm not going to give up having 2 glasses of wine every single night. That means that goal is not as important to you as drinking those 2 glasses of wine. You're never going to reach your goals. So you do need to make the sacrifices. Like they said, like you still have to make some sacrifices. Like maybe you don't have 2 glasses every single night of the week. Save it for the weekend. Like it is hard work It does take a lot of effort, but what we're trying to say is it doesn't have to be impossible. Like, you don't have to be 100% on track 100% of the time, but it still is going to take effort and work. It's all about how bad you want it. Like, so many people come to us and they're like, I want to reach this goal so bad, and they've tried a bunch of different things, but they're not willing to do what it takes to actually achieve it. And I think it's just because they don't value that goal as much as their current lifestyle. So you really need to sit down and decide, like, you know, do you really want to achieve that goal? Why do you want to do it? Figure that out, and then make the conscious decision to put in the work. At the end of the day, that's what it's going to come down to. And what we're saying is, if you decide to do that, you can still maintain and keep those results even at a 50% effort. I mean, you mentioned from a study that you read about, like, there was a group of 1,000 people and that they tracked for how long?
It was a year.
And the people that were 80 and 90% compliant obviously got the best results, but the people that were still only 40, 50, 60% compliant still got amazing results or maintained their results. So even if you're at 40%, like 3 days out of 7, if you're on track, you're still going to maintain or get better results than the person that's 0 out of 7. So that's kind of what we're trying to really distill into you guys. But at the end of the day, like, if you have a big goal ahead of you, you need to turn that dial up and put in the work and achieve it, and then you can turn it back down and maintain and enjoy it.
Right. Yeah. One last tip from me is just staying within a range. It's good to set some sort of boundaries for yourself, like not being like dead, I have to be this number exactly, because that's one, almost near impossible to do all the time and very consistently. So having a range of like, okay, I'm going to eat between 2,000 and 2,300 calories or something like that, or I'm going to be within my protein, but then, you know, my carbs and fats can be different, or I'm going to work out 2 to 4 days a week. Like, your goal is 4 every week, but it's okay if you go down to 2 when life comes up. Like, having some sort of a range to at least keep yourself in some sort of like guidance, but it's not super rigid, like it's flexible. So keeping like a flexible mindset about it, of like, you don't have to be perfect, you can still be within a range and make good results.
Yeah, that was well put.
I think that's about it.
Yep.
Cool. Awesome. So that wraps up today's episode. So just keep in mind, as we come into summer, you know, you don't want to completely get rid of or stop your training or your nutrition. You want to try to still stick to that. At least, you know, I love that Austin brought up the 80-20 rule, because that's something I tell all of our clients and people that are doing our classes is, you know, as long as you're on track 80% of the time, enjoy yourself 20% of the time. And maybe during the summer it's a little bit higher, but still put in the work and try to remind yourself constantly of the last 8 months of hard work that you put in, and not completely throwing it all away and restarting in the fall, because that's the last thing we want to see people do. Obviously we want to see people come in here year round, but it's more importantly about you guys not having to restart. You know, we love seeing people coming into classes all year round. We don't want to see you leave, but we also don't want to see you lose your results. So try these out. Hopefully this helps. If you have any questions, feel free to let us know. Make sure you like and subscribe so you can see all the other videos. We're coming up on our 1 year. So this is episode 49. We got 3 more and we'll be at 1 year of Trainer Talk. So super cool. Stay watching. Make sure you share it with friends if you have anybody that it might help. Until then, stay healthy, you guys. See ya.